Hey guys, welcome to day 3 of our 15 days to Spring Boot Mastery Challenge. Have you completed day 2 of this challenge? That is the environment setup and a simple example using Maven. I hope you have completed with the assignments too. Guys, please do not jump into Spring Boot now. First, let us understand the fundamental concepts of Spring Framework by using Maven. After that, we can create our projects using Spring Boot. Wait for 2 more days, then we will start with Spring Boot. Till that time, let us work with Maven to understand the concepts of Spring Framework. Okay, the topic for today is Dependency Injection. What is Dependency Injection? Dependency Injection is a concept in which the dependencies needed for a class is injected either using setter method or using constructor. Now let me explain it to you. So the two types of dependency injection are setter based dependency injection and constructor based dependency injection. What is the meaning of setter based dependency injection? In case of setter based dependency injection, the dependencies needed for a class will be injected using the setter methods. And in case of constructor based dependency injection, the dependencies needed for a class will be injected using constructor. That is, my dear guys, if you are doing the same thing using Java, assume I have two classes, employee and address. Employee depends on address. In this scenario, if you want to add address object to employee, you might be writing this code in Java. Employee is equal to new employee and e.setAddress by passing the address object. For this, we should have the address object created already. Okay, this is what we do it explicitly in Java. But in this case, if I am using a particular annotation called @AutoWired above the setter method, the IOC container will create the address object and inject it into employee object. Similarly, what is constructor based dependency injection? In this scenario, the address object will be injected using constructor. How? If you are doing it in Java, you will write the code in this manner. Employee E is equal to new employee of address. Whatever you have been doing in Java is now taken care by Spring Framework. So, Spring Framework's IOC container is responsible for injecting the dependencies needed for a class. That is called as dependency injection. The two types of dependency injection are setter based dependency injection and constructor based dependency injection. In case of setter based dependency injection, the dependencies will be injected using the setter method. In case of constructor based dependency injection, the dependencies will be injected using the constructor. For this, the annotation that we will be using is called as @AutoWired. Do not confuse between dependency injection and auto-wiring. In case of dependency injection, we are just talking about how the dependencies will be injected. Then what is auto-wiring? How the dependencies are injected automatically. That is called as auto-wiring. We will discuss about auto-wiring in the upcoming class. So till that time, first let us understand about dependency injection. Okay. In today's video, we will be doing 4 examples. To start with, for setter based dependency injection, we will have a combination of employee and address. These two classes. The employee object depends on address object. So, the address object will be injected into the employee object using setter method. That is, I will add @AutoWired above the setAddress method in employee class. The second example is, let us have student details and course. In this case, the student details object depends on course object. So, the course object will be injected into student details object using setter method. The other two examples are for constructor-based dependency injection. Here, let us have the combination as vehicle and insurance. Vehicle object is dependent on insurance. So, the insurance object will be injected into vehicle object using the constructor. The second example can be showroom and car. The showroom object is dependent on car object. The car object will be injected into the showroom object using constructor. Okay. When to use setter-based dependency injection and when to use constructor-based dependency injection? If you want to create immutable object, use constructor-based dependency injection. That is, the moment you create vehicle, whatever dependencies are there will be attached to the vehicle object. So, you will be getting an immutable object which cannot be changed. But if you feel that you want to change the properties in a later stage, in that scenario, you need to use setter-based dependency injection. While working, again I will explain this. Guys, these examples also I will be doing only using Maven. Okay, how to do that? If you want, you can work on the same project by creating a new package and adding these classes. But now I am going to create a new project. Let me just tell you the steps which you can use for each and every project. First one is create a Maven project. Add group ID, artifact ID. Then add dependencies in pom.xml. And also remember to change Java version. When you are doing this, it is mandatory that you need to update your project or else the version will not change. Then if your classes are having instance variable, provide values for the instance variables only using application.properties. And of course we will be having a main class where you will be creating the IOC container. Either you can have one single main class for all these classes and do the application, or you create individual main classes for each and every combination. It is up to you. While working with Spring Boot, we will be working only as one single big wholesome project. As of now, we are understanding the concepts. So let us have it simple. Now let me go back to Spring Tool Suite. Now let us create a Maven project. File, New, Maven project. Select Create a Simple Project. Click Next. Here I want to provide few pointers for group ID and artifact ID. Group ID is like a package name. You should have 3 words. The group ID and the package name should be in lowercase only. It should be in the form of reverse URL, as in com.something.something, edu.something.something, org.something.something. What is this something? It can be your company name or the project in which you are working. The second something will be the layer in which you are working. As in, I can have it as com.indbank.service, com.mcdonalds.repository, com.shristi.service. If you notice, the second word is the project in which you are working or the company for whom you are doing the project. And the package name always should be in lowercase only. Now coming to artifact ID. Artifact ID is the project name. The project name, because we are working with Maven, should always start with first letter capital. If you are having 2 words, the first letter of each word should be in capital. Here in case of Spring Basics, we have given it in this form. Can I add underscore? You should not add underscore. Few of you might be wondering, why can't I use my name in the package name, or why can't I use underscore? Guys, I know you are doing a practice only. It is for understanding purpose only. But still, please try to follow the naming conventions from the start itself. This will help you when you are working with bigger applications. If you don't follow it now, when you are working with bigger applications also, you will have the same tendency to add underscore. Now let us give the group ID and artifact ID com.shristi.dast. Shristi is my company name, not my name. So remember, the group ID should be generic. Now let me give the artifact ID as Spring Dependency Demo. When we are working with Spring Boot, we will not use this naming convention for project name. We will be using snake case, as in hyphen in between the words. All the words will be in lowercase only. That is a big shift from Spring Maven to Spring Boot. Let me click finish. Now the application is ready. The first step is we need to add the dependencies in pom.xml. So let me copy the dependencies from the previous application. I need to copy the properties also. Copy it, save and format it. Control A, Shift Control F. Now it is formatted. Fine. Whether the version of Java is changed? No. So select your project, right click, Maven update project. Click force update of snapshots. Click OK. Now the version is changed to Java 21. Now let us get started with the first application. Select src main Java, right click, new class. Let me give the package name as com.spring.setter. The class name is employee. Let us annotate the class with @component annotation. And let me add few instance variables. Private string emp name, private int emp id. Now this employee class should have address as instance variable. Meaning to say that we need to create an address class. Let me create a new class. Class name is address. This address class is also having two instance variables. Private string city, private string state. Now let me annotate this class with @component. I need to assign values for city and state. So let us go to source and generate getter setters. Select all, click generate. And of course we need toString also. Go to source, generate toString. If I use toString, I don't have to retrieve the values separately. Fine. Now come back to employee class. Add address as instance variable. Private address. Please notice here, this address instance variable is of type address, not string. Now for these three properties, let me add setter methods. Generate getter setters. I want set address, set emp id, set employee name. If you feel that you want to add all getter setters, that also is fine. But as of now, it is not needed for me, so I have not added it. Click generate. Now, together with this, let me also add one more method in this class. Public void print details, where I want to print the details of the employee. First, let me start with the name plus emp name. If you are using this outside, then you need the getter method to retrieve the name. I am printing it over here, so directly I am calling it. Next is employee ID. emp ID. Next is I need to print the address. Already we have overridden toString. So if I am trying to print address, of course it will return me the city and state. But I want to print city separately and state separately. Either I can get it in a variable and print it, or I can give it in one single line also. Address. Address is the property over here. Address dot get city. So city. Then state. Address dot get state. Okay, fine. Now what is the next thing? I need to add value for employee name, employee ID, city and state. So we need to use @value annotation. Employee is still giving me an error because address class is not saved. Let me save it. Now the error is gone. I need to add @value annotation above the setter method. We are going to use application.properties file. So let me select src main resources. and I need to create the properties file. I'll copy from the previous one. Let me open the properties file. Employee.employee name, then employee.employee ID. The next one is address. So I can have it as address.city equal to Bengaluru, address.state equal to Karnataka. Fine. Now city and state belong to address. So we have given the key as address.city and address.state. But this address itself belongs to employee class. So it will be better if I am having this as employee.address.city, employee.address.state. It is not mandatory though. You can give any name you want. But if you are following a proper naming convention, it will be uniform for everybody who is working in a particular team. Let me copy this now. Come to the employee. Above the setter method, add at value annotation. Dollar curly brace. Employee.employee name. Similarly, we will do it for employee ID. Now what about address? Address is an object by itself. It is not a primitive type. Remember, you cannot inject primitive type. You can inject only objects of one class into another class. Now we are injecting address into employee object. So the annotation that I need to use is at auto-wired. If this address is of type string, then I cannot use at auto-wired annotation. But here it is a class by itself. So we are using at auto-wired annotation above the setter method. Okay. Now let me go to address. I will add at value annotation there also. Above the setter method. Employee.address.state. Employee.address.city. All set now. Go to the employee class. Since we are using application.properties, add at property source. Remember, this is not needed when you are working with Spring Boot. In case of Spring Boot, application.properties file will be recognized automatically. But because we are working with Maven and we are creating the properties file, we need to specify where exactly it is available. It is available in the class path. So we are giving it in this way. If you open classes folder, inside that also this application.properties will be available. Okay, all set. Let me save this. Now let us create the main class. Select src main java, right click, new class. I am going to create the main class in com.spring package. I am going to have only one single main class. Let me have the class name as dependency main. Select public static void main, click finish. First we need to create an object of application context. I'll copy it from the previous example. Guys, when you are doing it, you should type it out so that you will remember. Let this be there. I want to first show you how this particular application can be executed using Java. So let me comment this line. If I am doing it using Java, then first I need to create an employee object. Employee is equal to import employee. New employee. Then I need to set the values for employee object. Employee.set employee ID 1. Employee.set employee name. Then I need to set the address object. So first create address object. Address is equal to new address. Then address dot set city Chennai. Address dot set state Tamil Nadu. Okay. Now the next step is I need to set address into employee object, and then I should call print details method. Set address to employee. Now I can give it as employee dot set address by passing the address object. Then call the method. This is pure Java. Employee dot print details. Let me save this and I will run it. Run this as a Java application. Click OK. Let me maximize the console. Here we have got the output. But there are scenarios where we may forget to write this line employee.setAddress. What will happen if I don't set the address object into employee? Employee object is dependent on address object. I have created the address object, but I forgot to add the address object into employee object. Now what will happen? When you are going into print details method, it will print employee name, employee ID. What about address? Object is created, but it is not added to employee. So the address value over here is null. You are trying to call get city on a null object. So you will get null pointer exception. Let us check it out. See, it is printing name, employee ID, and in line number 31, it is throwing an exception. Address dot get city, because address object is null. Why? I have created the address object, but as a developer, I forgot to attach address object into employee object. This is where Spring helps us. It automatically injects the dependencies that are needed for our class. Now, let us do the same thing using Spring. Let me go to the main class. I will comment this part. Okay, I will comment till this part. Of course, we need to call the method. So that part I will leave it. I will comment till this part. Okay. Now first line is we need to create the IOC container. I'll give the package name as com.spring, or you can have it as com also. Now let me get the bean with the name employee, comma employee.class. The return type is an employee object. Okay. Using the employee object, I can call print details method. Okay. Now what actually will happen? In this particular line itself, it will go inside the package, that is com.spring. There are no classes inside com.spring except this dependency main. Then it will go into the sub package of com.spring, which is com.spring.setter. It will create object for address because it is annotated with add component. Next, it is supposed to create an object of employee. But employee depends on address because we have used at auto-wired. Now what it will do? It will create employee object. It will call the setter method and add the address object into employee object. Spring framework is doing all the work that we have been doing using Java. So once it is done, your employee object is loaded with the address object. That is, the dependencies are added. Now, when I call print details method on this employee object, it can print everything. It will print the employee name, employee ID. Now address object is already available. It will print the city and of course the state also. Whatever values you have given in application.properties. Maximize the console. Here we have got the output. Okay. What will happen if I don't add at auto-wired in the employee class? Now what will be the value of address? The value of address is null. You are trying to call get city and get state on a null reference. So again here also you will get null pointer exception. Can you see that? Null pointer exception. So what is mandatory? You need to add at auto-wired annotation above the setter method. Okay, one other thing. Now here I added at auto-wired. In address, I forgot to add at component annotation. It means the IOC container will create only the employee object. And now it is trying to inject address into employee object. But address object is not available. In this scenario, it will throw a different exception. Unsatisfied dependency exception. What is the meaning of it? The IOC container says, my employee object is dependent on address object because you have used at auto-wired. But there is no address object. Kindly check whether it is in the same hierarchy or you have added at component annotation. Now let me run this. Let us see the exception. Let me maximize the console. Unsatisfied dependency exception. When you are getting exception like this, scroll down, go to the place where exactly the exception is thrown. no such bean definition. No bean of type address is available. I am expecting at least one bean. You are not even having one single bean. This means we have made some mistake somewhere. So what we can do, we have to go and check where exactly it is available. Debug your application. Now you will understand that we have missed that component annotation. Or there are scenarios where you have added that component, but you have added this particular address class in a completely different package which is out of IOC container. IOC container can recognize only com.spring. Now assume you have added this to org.spring. In that scenario also you will get this exception. So if you are getting unsatisfied dependency exception, then you have to first go and check in the hierarchy of your packages. Next you need to go and check whether you have added at component annotation above the class. Okay. Now our first example is over. We will move on to the next one. Let me select com.spring.setter. Let me create a new class. This time my class name is student details. Annotate the class with add component. Let me add two properties. One is student name. The other one is course. We have not created the course class. From here only we will create it. Okay, let me keep the cursor here. Create class course. Click finish. Annotate this class with add component annotation. Now let us add one method. Public list of string get all, which takes a type. Depending on the type, I am going to return a list of courses. If type dot equals front end, then return arrays dot asList HTML CSS React. Okay, let me complete this code. Similarly, I will do it for backend and database also. Else return no courses available. The return type is a list of string only. So I am passing one single string value. Okay. Now let me go to student details. I need to add setter methods for student name and course. Go to source, generate getter setters, select all, click generate. Now let us add one single method to call get all courses. Public list string show courses. Here also I should have type, string type. Technically this type is going to come from the main class. In the main class, the user is going to specify what type of course he wants. So that value will come inside, and from this class it is going to the course class. Okay. Now I need to call the method of course. I need to call it as course dot get all by passing the type. And we can directly return it. Let me add a println statement also. Showing courses for plus type. What else is needed? We need to add at value annotation for student name, and we need to add at auto wired because we are using setter based dependency injection. Above student name, let me add at value annotation dollar curly brace student dot student name. This is what I want to add. I'll copy this. I'll go to application.properties. Here I can give it equal to Kumaran. Now in student details, import list. Okay. Now let me go to the main class. The same main class. We don't have to create the IOC container again. Already it is having the package name. Now let us get the list of courses. Okay. I'll comment this line alone. Student details. Details is equal to context dot get bean of. Now pass student details dot class, or you can pass the bean name. The bean name is in camel case, student details. Okay, if you feel that the name is too big, go to this class and you can provide a different name. Now let us have it as student. Okay, and come back. I don't know the name of the bean, So I assume that there is only one single bean available and I will give the class name directly. Okay. What is the bean name here? It is student, not student details. The next line, details dot show courses by passing backend. This returns a list. Let me use for each directly. System dot out double colon println. Okay. Now let us run this. Yeah. Here we have got the output. Instead of backend, if I am giving database, this value will be assigned to type in show courses method. The same type, that is database, will be taken to get all method. In get all, the value of type is database. So it is coming to this particular if condition and this should return me the list of courses. Let me run it again. Okay. What will happen if I don't have it? Databases. This value is not available. So it has to return me no courses available. Okay. So we have done it using setter based dependency injection. Next we will move on to constructor based dependency injection. Let me select the package, right click, new class. I'll give the package name as com.spring.constructor. What is that we told? It is vehicle. Add component. Let me have 3 instance variables for vehicle class. One is model, the other one is brand. These two are of data type string. The third one is insurance, which is of type insurance class itself. Brand, model, then private, insurance. Okay. We need to create the insurance class. Keep the cursor, create class insurance. In the same package only, annotate the class with add component. Let me add one simple method, public string get type. I'm simply creating a method to return the type of insurance. Insurance for parts. This insurance is for vehicle class, so I have given insurance for parts. Import component. This is from stereotype package. So component is called as a stereotype annotation. Let me go to vehicle class. Now we are going to use constructor based dependency injection. I need to provide values for brand and model. To provide values, we have learned that we can use setter methods and add at value annotation. This time I will not use anything. We will see how exactly it is working. I have to inject insurance into vehicle object. So let us create a constructor. Go to source, generate constructor using fields. Do not include primitive data types in the constructor. This constructor should have only objects of other classes. Click generate. Now, because we are working with the latest version, we don't have to use at auto-wide annotation above the constructor. No need of auto-wired. You might have wondered, see, I forgot to add employee.setAddress. In that case, it was throwing null pointer exception. Similarly, if the developer forgets to add at auto-wired above the setter method, then also we are getting null pointer exception. Then what is the point? If you are using constructor based dependency injection, in this case, while the vehicle object is getting created, during that time itself, the insurance object is getting created and injected into vehicle object automatically. Okay. Let me add one simple method. Public void show insurance. So, insurance dot get type. Okay. Let me add a simple println also. Printing insurance for vehicle plus model. Okay. Now let us go to the main class. Again we are going to use the same main class. I have given com.spring only. So this package also will be recognized. Let me create a reference of vehicle. Vehicle is equal to. Please do not use variable names as V. E, D. Give proper variable names. Again, let us use context.getBean of vehicle.class. In this case, when the vehicle object is getting created, during the creation time of vehicle object itself, insurance object will be injected. So, this vehicle object is an immutable object. You cannot modify the insurance object value. Now, let us call the method vehicle.showInsurance. Let me add a dummy println statement in between. Let me run this. Printing insurance for vehicle null. Why? Because for model and brand we have not used at value annotation. That is why it is giving null. So what I can do? I can add setter methods alone for brand and model. Remember, for primitive types, if you want to assign values, you can use setter method and assign value. You should not include primitive values together with objects in a constructor. That is one thing. Another thing is, you should not also have a default constructor. If you have a default constructor, Spring Framework will choose only the default constructor. In that case, insurance will not be injected. Let me show you. I'll go to source, generate constructor from superclass. So now I'm having a default constructor also. Let me save this and run it. Now see, null pointer exception. Why? Because in this case, the IOC container is creating an object of vehicle by using the default constructor. It will not consider the parameterized constructor. So when you are using constructor based dependency injection, you should have only parameterized constructor. No default constructor allowed. This is a very important thing that you need to know. Okay. I want to assign value for model and brand. Let me go to source, generate getter setters. Just add only setter method and add at value $curly brace vehicle.brand vehicle.model, and let me go to application.properties. Here I will give value for vehicle.brand and vehicle.model. Okay. Now let me run the application. Here it is giving the output, printing insurance for vehicle city, because we are trying to print the model. But there is one question over here. In vehicle class, we have not added at property source annotation. Still it is able to retrieve the value from application.properties file. How is it possible? Because in the main class, you are trying to retrieve the object of employee. In employee class, we have added at property source annotation. So, the moment it is able to understand or identify application.properties, it is grasping all the values and keeping it ready. I hope it is clear. It is identifying application.properties using the annotation that you have given in employee class. Even if you notice in student details also we have not given, but still the application is working perfectly fine. Why? Because we are having an employee class. The IOC container has entered into the employee class to create an object. So during that process, it is also identifying the application.properties that is available in the class path. That is why the other classes don't need it. Okay. One last program for constructor based dependency injection. Let me create a new class. The class name is showroom. Annotate the class with @component annotation. And let this have one instance variable, private car. And let me have the method as public list of string show brands. Return car dot. I want to create the car class and I want to retrieve all the brands. So let me keep it as such here. I'll keep the cursor, create the car class. Annotate the car class with @component annotation. Public list of string get all brands. See, technically this is something like I'm trying to retrieve the brands from the database, or I'm trying to retrieve the brands from a list of values. Return list.of. So what are the brands that you like? Maybe Audi, then Honda, Mahindra. What else? Hyundai. Whatever I know, I have added it. Now in showroom class, car dot get all brands. Okay. What is mandatory? I need to create a parameterized constructor. Go to source, generate constructor using fields, add car. Why I have given this example is, usually in real-time scenarios, the examples of Spring application will look like this. They will not have any instance variables. I also wanted to explain it to you that even if you are having instance variables, do not add the instance variables to the parameterized constructor if they are of primitive data types. But if I am having one other instance variable, say private address, in this scenario, I can pass the address class together with the insurance in the same constructor itself. A constructor should have only objects of other classes as parameters in case of constructor based dependency injection. Okay. Now, that's all. Let me format it. Go to the main class. Let me get a reference of showroom is equal to context.getBean of showroom, showroom.class. Now using showroom, I can get show brands method. The name doesn't look good. Let me give it a showroom. Showroom.showbrands.forEach. Okay, let me run this. See, it is giving me the proper output. I want to show you one more thing also. In the same class, let me add private insurance. Insurance is also in the same package. So let me try to add it. Insurance. So this is constructor based dependency injection. The next line, this dot insurance is equal to insurance. And using this insurance object, let me call the method insurance dot get type. This returns a string. So let me print it in a variable. So now let us run this. So here you can see the output insurance for parts, because we are calling insurance dot get type in line number 20. Then finally it is returning get all brands. We are printing get all brands in the main class. Showroom.showbrands.forEach. Okay. I hope it is clear. In today's session, we have learned about dependency injection and the types of dependency injection, setter based and constructor based dependency injection. In case of setter based dependency injection, we need to add at auto-word annotation above the setter method, which is of type object. Here, primitive data types cannot be injected into a particular class. If you want to assign value for primitive types, you need to use at value annotation. In case of constructor based dependency injection, you need to create a constructor that is having the parameter as objects of other classes. You cannot attach primitive data types to the objects in the constructor. You should not have a default constructor if you are using constructor based dependency injection. And of course, you don't have to use at auto-word annotation also. What is the difference between setter based and constructor based dependency injection? When to use what? Use constructor based dependency injection if you want to create immutable objects. The moment your object is getting created, all the dependencies needed for your object is added to it. Use setter based dependency injection if you want to change the properties in a later stage. In this scenario, first the object will be created and all the dependencies needed for the object will be injected by calling the setter methods. Okay. Today also I will be sharing few assignments in the WhatsApp group. Please try to complete it. The topic for tomorrow is auto wiring. Let us learn, code and grow together. Thank you.